Hello everybody, it's me, Fax5em. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever been compared to a communist, a socialist, an anarchist, or any sort of radical leftist because you promote even the minorest of changes in society? Some of you might be even thinking of the Red Scare from the 1950s, or even the 1960s when, well, a lot of people on the right accused MLK and the civil rights movement of being a communist front. You may even remember one of my absolute earliest videos where I got angry and literally banged my head on the wall as I read about the John Birch Society's, crap. But I want to go even earlier. And for the record, I'm focusing on the US of A. This is where I live. I'm stuck here with everybody else. Well, I guess I kind of like it here too, so. And I was born here. Don't really feel like leaving. But yeah, let's go even earlier. And not even to the first Red Scare of the 1920s. Or more like 1919, 1920, like right after World War I in the USA. No. I'm going back to the 50s. The 1850s. Yes. The earliest example of red baiting I could find was this guy in 1850. Let me double check his name. It was Reverend J.H. Thornwell. He delivered a sermon titled "The Rights and Duties of Masters," preached at the dedication of a church erected in Charleston, South Carolina. Of course, it's South Carolina. I pay. Now, I've read through this whole thing. It's honestly mostly just kind of rage-inducing, dumb, and if I did an entire video of me like reading this whole thing, it would just get too boring, really. At one point, I actually thought about gradually getting drunker and drunker as I read through it and got angrier, but I realized, I probably want to save my liver. However, there are two parts in particular, well, 2 pages in particular. The first on page, where is it? Here we go, page 14. Well, 14 and 15. Yeah, it goes from page 14 to 15. So allow me to read this. Tell me if this sounds familiar at all.
The parties in this conflict are not merely abolitionists and slaveholders. They are atheists, socialists, communists, red Republicans, Jacobins on the one side, and the friends of order and regulated freedom on the other. In one word, the world is the battleground. Christianity and atheism the combatants, and the progress of humanity the stake. One party seems to regard society with all its complicated interests, its divisions and subdivisions, as the machinery of man, which it has been invented and arranged by his ingenuity and skill, may be taken to pieces, reconstructed, altered, or repaired as experience shall indicate defects or confusion in the original plan.
That's right. If you go back far enough, you'll find people, and I should specify, this isn't just some nobody. This was, a well-established pastor or reverend. In fact, I should have pointed out he even had a doctorate of divinity in his title. Clearly a relatively big man in the Charleston scene at the time. And here he is, literally comparing abolitionism, or rather saying that abolitionism is more than just liberating slaves, but it's basically, if you engage in abolitionism, then you're siding with atheists, socialists, communists, red Republicans, and Jacobins. Now, I'm not entirely sure what he means by red Republicans, because the Republican Party was actually not founded yet. As a reminder, this is from 1850, and the Republican Party of the US was not founded until 1854. So, yeah. But seriously, and also for anyone listening who might be confused, Jacobins refers to, at the French Revolution, basically the Jacobins were, the group of people who were, really radical. They wanted the king out of power and that sort of thing. I'm being very, glossing over the details, but basically by Jacobins, he's effectively saying radicals or people who want to completely upheave society as we know it. And what did they want to do? They wanted to, stop slavery, the literal owning of other human beings. Amusingly, at some point in this long trek of a sermon, he talks about how a slave owner is not necessarily entitled to a slave's body, but rather is entitled to the ownership of their labor, which, I don't really know what to make of that. I have to say, reading through it, I was surprised by how very genteel he was. In fact, he also even commented on how, everybody is made in the image of God and, you shouldn't treat black people as inferior just because of their race, but you should still know that you are entitled to owning their labor. Whoop-de-doo, I guess. But there is one other part that I find particularly relevant to me rambling. Let me flip to that right now. Page 35 for anyone who wants to follow at home. Well, I should say it's page 35 of the document. It has a 35 in the top right corner. On the Google book that is publicly available, it might say it says page 33, I guess, because the intro and the closing pages kind of skew the numbers a bit, but page 35 in the top right corner.
The fundamental mistake of those who affirm slavery to be essentially sinful is that the duties of all men are specifically the same. Though they do not state the proposition in so many words, and in its naked form would probably dissent from it, yet a little attention to their reasoning puts it beyond doubt that this is the radical assumption upon which they proceed. All men are bound to do specifically the same things. As there are obviously duties of some men in some relations which cannot be practiced by a slave, they infer that the institution strips him of his rights and curtails the fair proportions of his humanity. The argument, fully and legitimately carried out, would condemn every arrangement of society which did not secure to all its members an absolute equality of position. It is the very spirit of socialism and communism.
You heard that right. If you want to abolish slavery, then chances are you think that any sort of arrangement in society, any sort of authority whatsoever must be completely and utterly abolished because that's the only way things can be after all. It's all or nothing. If you want to abolish slavery, then you want to abolish literally everything else, and that makes you a communist. Or rather, acting within the spirit of socialism and communism. So, let's see, what can we add to the list of things that are communist in America? We can add, we got any shot of a decent welfare state, any decent foreign policy proposals, any public transit. Let's see, I think universal health care would go under welfare states. Except Medicare and Medicaid, those are fine because the boomer voters need them. Medicare and Social Security. Medicaid is something that many other states still seem to resent in this great land of ours. Let's see, we got civil rights. We all know that Martin Luther King was secretly a communist.
Well, it ain't gonna accept communism, buddy. Who's talking about communism? I'm talking about civil rights. That's communism.
The right to join a union, that's also communism. You may recall that both race mixing and social distancing are communism. And so is wanting to free slaves. Maybe I'll find some other strange examples of red baiting in the future. Well, rather from the past, but I'll find them in the future. Time is a strange thing. Well, thank you. I hope you enjoyed it. Please smash that like button and share it around. Subscribe if you want to. You can donate money, or you don't have to do any of these if you don't want to. Because I'm not your boss. I'm just Fax 5'em. And right now, I'm signing off.